All right, guys. This is for Bill / Chris Harris, Harrison Horton, and Travis Mayer, who apparently don't know how to squat like everybody here at Embrace. You know, we've got old guys that squat better than you young lads out there. So we're going to look at something here. First of all, I want John to squat for me. So we squat. The problem that has been brought up to me is everybody's asking why it is that in this position a foot tends to turn out. Okay, John can keep both of his feet straight when he's in the bottom of the squat, and that's because number one, he's got enough ankle range of motion. David, if you come around to the side, he's got pure ankle dorsiflexion here in a neutral position. You come around to the front. Neutral position means that he's got his arch supported, his tibia is actually externally rotated or twisted out on his ankle, and he's got a tripod on his foot. So there's a point here, and point here where he's in contact with the floor all of the time. All of his weight should be distributed back through his heel, and basically he's sitting perfectly straight up and down. His shins are vertical, and he's sitting in that position without any rotation of his leg. So if he stands back up, the things I would look at if he were to squat, so squat and turn your foot out as you squat.
As I squat?
So if he started doing this and his feet started turning out, the first thing I would look at, and what I've recommended to Travis, is ankle mobility. So stand back up for me. The easiest way to check for you lay down. We're going to get him on the nasty floor just for you guys. Is if I lift his foot up here, I'm going to take a shoe after. In this position, I can push him into dorsiflexion in a neutral ankle position. So he's locked in that same external rotation, putting pressure here, and he's got plenty of dorsiflexion here, okay? What's happening with people that don't have that range of motion is I can twist his foot out and push up here, and you can see how much further that goes. I mean, it's moving like crazy. So stable ankle, good dorsiflexion. Unstable ankle, way more dorsiflexion. So the first thing I want to look at is ankle range of motion. Back up. The places you're going to get that robbed are, number one, your joint capsule. About 50% of lack of range of motion in a joint can come from the capsule or restriction in capsule.
That might make.
So the first thing I want you to do is look at stretching your capsule. To stretch your joint capsule, number one, you have to stay in that stable position. Number two, you want to put some kind of stretch or distraction in the joint itself. The capsule wraps around the entire joint, so you have to put some kind of pressure or stretch on it before you apply the stretch. So if John's in this position and I get him to stand like this and just lean forward, now he's stretching his Achilles tendon. Even if he stays in a real stable position, he's stretching the joint capsule, but not enough to get extra mobility out of it. So what I'm going to get him to do is step through this band, get seated around the base of his ankle. The bone right below your lower leg bones is called your tarsus. It's your tarsal bone, and it's the main stabilizer of your ankle. When you roll here, you lock that tarsal bone in place. So you want a band around that tarsal bone, and then secure it around a rig or something behind you to put pressure or distraction to the joint, pulling it backward. Now I want John to do that same kind of stretch where he leans forward, gets his knee over his toe, and then wiggles around side to side, just kind of exploring that range of motion to increase the capsular mobility, okay? The other thing, if you have a good buddy or a physical therapist around, which none of you losers do, you can get somebody to actually stand, put their hand over that tarsal bone and push back as John leans forward. So actually you're creating a fulcrum over which his joint capsule will stretch. All right, stand back up. So that's number one, capsular mobility in the ankle. Second thing is there can be restrictions because of your tendency to externally rotate your foot. You stretch one side of the tissue and you junk up the outside of the tissue. If this part's junked up or tight, as I flex, what's going to happen is that tight tissue is going to pull my foot out in this position. So the other thing we can do is grab our handy dandy little lacrosse ball. Let's see. Take the lacrosse ball, basically at the base of the foot on the outside, start with the lacrosse ball here, work all the way up the back of that ankle bone and up the side of your calf. So what John's going to do is cross his leg in, put that ball exactly where I was talking about. He's going to put pressure here and roll his ankle around. So roll your ankle around.
No.
Roll your ankle around this way. So make circles with his ankle. Do that 2 or 3 times. Roll up a little further. Roll his ankle around again. Up a little further. Roll his ankle around again. About 3 to 5 minutes of doing that every day to get that tissue loosened up. After you do that, make sure you're exploring that range of motion. Last thing is, whenever you stretch, make sure you're in a stable ankle position. So John, stand back up for me one time. So remember, if you're looking here, what should happen is as John stretches, step back, step forward. As he stretches and pushes forward where his knee comes out over his toe, you should see his tibia outside of his ankle here. So you should be rolling out here and actually creating an arch. If you get into this stretch and you see this happening, where your arch starts to cave, then you're doing it wrong. You're not stretching that pure range of motion again. You're back in that cheating range of motion. So you want to make sure your tibia stays externally rotated, you put pressure forward here, and that's going to stretch the portion of your ankle that's restricted. That's it, guys. It's the best I can do for right now.